Moving on from Whitney, the next topic of discussion, which I especially brought Ashlee Marie in to speak on at least a large side of this argument, because basically Scarlett Johansson was cast in a movie with her director that she worked with in Ghost in a Shell, Rupert Sanders, who you may know because he had a history with, yes, Kristen Stewart, which was interesting that he's attached to yet controversial stuff. You would think he'd want to fly under the... But anyway, I'm digressing. She is announced that she's going to star as Dante Tex Gill, a real-life figure who used a string of massage parlors as fronts for prostitution. And Gill was actually identified as a man, so it's a trans male character. And so, obviously, after Scarlett's casting became news, Twitter, the internet, LGBTQ community, so on. A lot of people had opinions about this, and it started these fierce debates online, prompting, which was very interesting, a very fast response from her publicist that pretty much was like, oh, go speak to the publicists of Felicity Huffman, Jared Leto, and why is the third? Oh,
Jeffrey Tambor.
Jeffrey Tambor for comment. And so I want you to start off, Ashlee, here. What I basically, with the question to you is, what do you basically say to critics, to critics of this in Hollywood, that say this is really a business and that this is not about sort of a social justice issue, about visibility for one segment of the LGBT community? What do you say to that?
I think it most certainly is attached to social justice, because there is a social responsibility to the communities in which you borrow these narratives from. Mm-hmm. And one of the most disturbing things is that Scarlett Johansson is estimated at over $100 million, and she's stealing economic opportunities to thrive from a community that on a national average makes under $10,000 a year. And the question also goes to SAG-AFTRA, who I'm actually in the process of writing a letter to the president, because they, in their theater agreement, only see protected class as over 40 years old, a woman over 40 years old, and disabilities, but race and gender identity is not a part of that conversation.
Is that a conversation that's being had, though, to be...
Yes, to basically update the language. It's a bit antiquated, and when you're talking about California that has quota laws on diversity, the entertainment industry, radio, film, and television seems to somehow evade those. And when you bring it up, people feel they're beyond reproach. And so I think that this is a larger conversation around how do we offer more economic opportunities for qualified actors and actresses who can play that role, and how do we also have accountability. I think what made the trans community more frustrated was the response.
Merle, so you obviously covering the Hollywood business for a while. Do you think that this is a conscious effort on the part when, like, the filmmakers were getting together and deciding they were going to do this story, and they are deciding who they're going to put in a movie? Is this a conscious decision, or is this something that they're not really thinking about it and they're just saying, I want to do this project creatively, and Scarlett's who I want to work with? Give me your feet.
Hollywood is not a business, the entertainment business, to benefit anybody but the money people. Yes, there are socially conscious projects in Hollywood. That's great. I feel bad that trans actors can't get the work they want, but women over 50 can't get the work they want.
Yeah, we get no work, though.
Well, nobody guaranteed anybody in acting that they were ever going to have work.
Yeah, I think one of the best conversations that happened came from Sense8 Jamie Clayton, actress Jamie Clayton, who's trans, and Trace Lysette. And they were basically saying that this isn't just a thing of like, okay, Scarlett Johansson got this role. they don't even invite trans women into the same room as these women to audition
And
for
you know
these
what?
roles.
They don't invite women who are B-list into that room.
And so when do we change that? And I think that this is what I admire about the trans community, and I think that we're the ones to lead this conversation. Like, prime example, the fact that there's no language around race when Hollywood has a history of blackface, mammy, step and fetch, and all of these things. And that's why you have Scarlett Johansson last year playing Ghost in the Shell, playing a Japanese character.
But it's interesting you bring that up, because that was where that fell apart for me, to conflate those two. And I felt like people were already on the defensive because of the Ghost in the Shell. But Asian is a race. Trans is a gender.
You can't play Asian if you're not.
How can you conflate those two things?
Well, because they're both, you're talking about demographics that are underrepresented already. That's how they're related and tied together. So when you're talking about the Asian American community will tell you there is a lack of representation, which is why Fresh Off the Boat, when that show came, it was such a hit, because there's already an underrepresentation. And so when people talk about the money, it is a money business. You can have household names, large names like Scarlett Johansson in these projects playing supportive roles and still get the outcome that you want. Black Panther was an example of that. It made box office history, and Angela Bassett, who's Hollywood royalty, was a supporting role in that, but she wasn't.
But Black Panther was the first black-centric superhero. Like, again,
it was about
I feel like we're conflating two things where it's like...
But we're not, though. We're talking about underrepresentation in Hollywood and where we draw the line.
But who in Hollywood said that the business of entertainment was about representation?
Well, that's the thing.
I wish it was,
it's
but it's
typically
not.
about cis heteronormative white men who think that they know the experiences of women better than they do, who feel they know the experiences of trans people better than they do. If they were smart and if they were about their money, they would recognize that even in the LGBTQ community, we have an estimated spending power of $917 billion, which is nearly $1 trillion. So they would be smart about their money and do something that's actually going to engage the community that they're trying to market to.
Jeffrey Tambor is not a trans person, and yet he plays one. Is
no,
that
not
a bad
anymore.
thing?
He does not.
Well,
not anymore.
Okay, that was because of sexual politics, but that had nothing to do with his gender.
Right, but the thing is that there were writers on that show who were trans.
I understand
there were supporting roles that were trans, and so without these people at the table for the conversation, he would have had no part.
Should Daniel Day-Lewis not have played in My Left Foot because he wasn't crippled? Same thing.
Yeah, and I think, once again, it goes back to the point where we can have these conversations in the beginning, but there needs to come a point where we evolve and we grow. So the conversation we were having when Hilary Swank played in Boys Don't Cry, that was an entirely different time because we were still trying to figure out what that dynamic looked like in our community. But as we continue to do this, the objective should be to open the door so that we can step into those positions to tell our story better than we can.
But then trans people can also, like Janet Mock and other people, go make their own projects. Get out there, write your story.
And that's what we're actually working on doing. But the thing is, you're talking about meritocracy, this idea that, oh, all you have to do is work hard and do this and you will get it. And the reality is that intersectional experiences teach us that that's not the case. We don't have the resources to do so.
Nobody in Hollywood particularly, you want to be a banker, you'll have a guaranteed job. We're writers. We don't have guaranteed jobs. There's no guarantees.
It's not about guarantee, but it's about opportunity. And when we don't have that opportunity, that's when we need to have the discussion on how we include others.
So, playing devil's advocate in this conversation, because that was, what even prompted me to ask you to be on the show was you wrote a tweet that was very pointed about like white gay men not standing up for stand up for us. Because basically that they were the same gay men that were okay watching Roseanne. Because my opinion on this is sort of...
Can we just actually say what the tweet was, just because...
Yes, go ahead.
Because so basically, I was talking about, this was about the Scarlett Johansson bit.
Yes.
And so what I was saying was that we have to stop making exceptions for which form of oppression and exclusion we're going to allow. And so it seems like sometimes like we're the same people that talk about wedding cakes and all of this, and I want to have a right to. But then when it comes to trans women, more specifically trans women of color, we don't have that same conversation. There's not that same level of support. And so what my point was that we continue to make excuses for problematic behavior. They made excuses when RuPaul had the comments to say about trans women. They made the excuses when Roseanne had the problematic politics, not just around Trump, but around people of color, which later came out, and then everyone's all of a sudden on board. And now with Scarlett Johansson, some people were like, well, you know, she probably didn't mean it, but I think the conversation Rose McGowan and I had was a perfect blueprint and model of how you can hold someone accountable and hold them at the same time. And the fact that there was this dismissive energy and there was no willingness to have a conversation, that was what the problem was.
She would get beaten to shit if she had that conversation. So I'm not defending her. Scarlett Johansson, not only that, she didn't choose to be in that movie.
Also, the interesting thing is the very dismissive PR comment, though. Garce, to my understanding, he is openly Marcel, her publicist, is openly gay. So
exactly.
It came. But no, and here's the thing: I'm also gay. Big surprise! Breaking news now. But I really struggled with the argument here on behalf of the LGBT community because for years, and I'm gonna just bear with me for a second here, for years basically, the gay community was saying you need to give the gay community a shot at playing straight roles, right? So then how do we now confront this issue of saying trans roles in movies need to go to trans actors? Because then that basically puts us right back saying then Hollywood producers can say, well, if you're gay, you're not going to play a straight role. You're not going to be a straight leading man.
But that's not, and that's why I specifically love what Jamie Clayton of Sense8 on Netflix had to say. Her point, her entire point was just that. If you're going to say that Scarlett Johansson can do this, then you need to make sure that trans women are in that same room with Scarlett Johansson and Michelle Rodriguez and whoever else is playing.
They probably will be.
So your point is saying, so you're saying beyond just trans roles.
Exactly.
See, because a lot of the argument I'm seeing laid in the idea of just a trans character having to be played. That's where I didn't understand where.
There's a couple of different, as with anything else. There's always going to be different nuances to the conversation.
Yes.
But I think I definitely am specifically amplifying the one that Jamie Clayton had, which is that we need to look at the fact that it's not opportunities. So you can become anything, but we can't. We're not even invited out to those roles. And so my whole point in reaching out to SAG-AFTRA, who has a responsibility to performers, actors, and actresses, is to make sure that we are protected and that we have equity there.
When you say not invited out, though, so like obviously acting,
quite literally.
But let's again, I'm thinking of it in terms of like, and I know we can't take out race, we can't take out gender identity, we can't take out sexual orientation because we live in a society that is a melting pot.
Right.
But if you just looked at it like, I'm a young boy that wants to be an actor and dreamed of being an actor, it is the most difficult career to break into for a straight person, a gay person, anybody. So when you're saying like you're not invited in the room, I don't know any actors who didn't just hustle, and it's like, isn't it just getting representation, going to auditions?
We're going back to meritocracy. We need to stop pretending that the trans community has the same access. Even as a black trans woman, statistically, my life expectancy doesn't go beyond 35 years old.
Yeah.
We need to get honest. I am sick of white people, specifically in the industry, making excuses, and even with white women, the 53% who voted for Trump, making excuses and saying that like, oh, well, you know, all they have to do is this. And it's like, no, because we're being told like, oh, you can eat, but then there's a cage right in front of our faces and we can't access it.
So GLAAD did a study that you said, and it was literally like 84% of the people in America in their study said they don't know a person that is transgender.
And there was even another study that actually said that actually went deeper to ask them if they would befriend them, and it was shocking. Most people aren't even interested in getting to know us.
Those are the Trump voters. They are the people
They're not all Trump voters. No. The Democratic Party, especially in California, and I am a Democrat for those who may not know, the Democratic Party in California especially is just as problematic as the GOP. And we saw that even with the whole Maxine Waters thing, not to digress.
So, okay, so don't vote for Hillary Clinton and wind up with Trump and no abortions. You know,
I don't know what that means, but what I do
I'm
understand.
so sick of people complaining about the Democratic Party.
Right, it's not complaining, but the thing is
well,
same.
Hold on, we're taking this into we're Meet the Hollywood. We still
Well,
are Meet the Hollywood
right.
Press.
We're still Meet the Hollywood Press, and it is the reason why it is important. And I thank you for modeling the conversations we need to have, because typically we're not in the room to speak for ourselves. And white men and white women always feel that they're entitled not only to just like, okay, it should be, but they're entitled to our experiences and our stories and our lives, and you can just try them on and discard them when you're done, and we're done.
Well,
we're done with that.
Well, that's why I think a big part of this for me on a personal level was to have a deeper understanding, because there's always going to be a conversation. You know what? I'm going to Sam. I feel like you're sitting over there. Your head's going back and forth. No, I just want to bring in. I want to bring in like sort of the millennial male opinion here, like, because you're growing up in a generation that is really like throws out any labels. You know what I'm saying? And so, what is your just opinion, just looking at this as like the new generation of all of this?
Well, I think it's interesting. I don't think, as the millennial voice at the table.
You like how I totally called that out?
I don't think we throw out labels. Actually, I think we acknowledge them. We acknowledge the role that these labels play, and it's funny because there is kind of this contradiction that always gets pointed out about millennials. It's like, oh, we're simultaneously, so wedded to these labels, and we compartmentalize people into sexual orientation or gender or political affiliation, but at the same time we throw it out and we dismiss it. And I think that confusion is kind of emblematic of it stems from the contradiction that millennials themselves, speaking generally, are trying to call out, which is that we do live in, or just any society operates on generalizations, and I'm going to see someone and identify, kind of the list of identities that they represent, and then I'm going to treat them a certain way, right? So I'm kind of getting in the
weeds,
in the bushes, but speaking to friends of mine and sources and especially younger actors, there's a split. Especially around this issue where a lot of actors come up. I mean, acting's about transformation, right?
Yeah.
I did college theater. I've played 60-year-old men, right? I am not a 60-year-old man, but and that's kind of inherent to acting. But the issue is that same kind of opportunity for transformation is denied to trans actors, where trans lives and trans experiences are only celebrated in the context of these cis actors playing these roles, right? Where in a lot of like Jeffrey Tambor, we celebrated.
And by
him.
the way, for the audience listening that may not know cisgender, because quite frankly, there's very smart people that I speak to that have heard that term for the first time. Cisgender is a heterosexual.
Well, no, that's sexuality. That's actually separate. So basically. Cisgender just means that the gender you identify as is in alignment with the sex you were assigned at birth.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah. So
there you go.
It's with Jeffrey Tambor, right? We celebrated him when he first played.
He won 1 million Emmys.
Exactly. He was lauded widely.
He did a great job. I mean, for whatever his
But which is
behavior
also interesting, because again, Netflix and Amazon, we don't really know like viewership numbers, but we just know that again, the Hollywood's like self-congratulatory award show.
Well, it even
like the
happened
critics
with
and the
her.
writers all love. I don't actually know if America loves trans. Call me crazy here, but I don't know that the rest of America loves trans.
No, that's important.
Because Amazon doesn't tell us how many people watch it, and we don't know. So to hear 86% don't know trans, and then when you look at Ryan Murphy's Pose, great show. But here's the thing: the reality is, it's even less than Versace. It's drawing 600,000 viewers a week. Granted, it's the summer. Versace was like about 1 million average. So my thing about this is, again, this is the answer. Merle, Hollywood studios, like, then what do you say when it's like, I feel like we there's a certain level where people want Hollywood to be everything to everybody, where
Yes,
it's like
I agree with
Hollywood
that.
gets involved in politics, and then it's like Hollywood should shut their mouth about politics. Then when Hollywood is just
But
like,
who says that?
No.
Who says Hollywood should shut their mouth, though?
Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Exactly, but there's like average like people.
Meanwhile, he's the most Hollywood of anyone who ever.
There's a,
Right.
That's the
there's
thing,
a lot
yeah.
of like
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this on like Trump tending to be Trump voter type people think Hollywood. They've tuned out of watching like Hollywood Awards this last
Oh, they
year
totally have.
But then when it comes to sort of like. There's a social justice issue, and it's like when Hollywood wants to just be a business, like a studio goes like this, because here's what I'm going to say. What if, here's the thing, putting Scarlett Johansson in a role like this.
By the way, and I'm not defending any of this.
Yeah.
She is the biggest earning box office female in the business, bigger than Meryl Streep.
Yeah, so putting a highly visible actress in this trans role, then what do you say to people that say, but that gives visibility to a trans story because more people are going to maybe
Let
see
me
the movie?
break that down for you. Let me break it down for you. This idea of representation without compensation is exploitation rebranded. It's trash. It's not. That's why when we were talking about the Whitney Houston movie, I asked specifically, and I didn't move away from that, who is it benefiting?
Yeah.
And if it is not benefiting the people whose narratives and pain and trauma you're digging up for an Oscar that you're not going to get, because let me be quite clear. If you notice, when they named all of those people who played trans roles, they were only award winners.
Why?
And there were other people who played trans roles that were not named. So even the arrogance in that statement said that, we're just doing whatever we need to do to get an Oscar. And again, my idea was not to get off in the weeds too much. What I really wanted to underscore more than anything is that the gaslighting needs to stop. And so we need to stop, because if you're an artist and a storyteller and a director, producer, you are a reflection of truth. You are a reflection of the times. And if you are not able to reflect the discrimination and erasure and exclusion of trans people, you aren't that great at what you do.
A lot of art, and I'm talking about fine art, but also film, television, particularly now, is ugly, is mean. A lot of people hated Westworld because it's so violent. I say...
I don't hate Westworld, but I just think you need a map to understand it.
But
But go ahead.
for art's sake, I do think there should be some socially conscious art, and particularly when it comes to documentary, because that's reality. But artists can do whatever they want, and artists can make something that's ugly. They love controversy, and I don't think they're responsible to anybody, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that's, of course, because your life experience looks a lot different from someone who is not going to live to 35
You don't know that.
years old.
You don't know what my experience is.
I don't know your whole experience, but I know that next to me, it looks a whole lot different. And that's the gaslighting that we're talking about. But the fact that you are not, as a white woman, you are not able to sit here and acknowledge that you have privilege beyond other people.
Baby, I'm making no money. I am broke right now.
That's the other thing, too. When we're talking about white privilege, we're not talking about a bank receipt. When we're talking about white privilege, what we're saying is that you were born into the world with a head start and an advantage that several classes of people did not have. That does not make you a horrible person. It gives you an opportunity to take those tools and use them to become a better ally to communities who can use that.
And you know what? I would go out and defend any trans candidate, anything in politics. I just think artists should do what they want.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
you know what?
political.
Agreed.
I don't think art
I think
is
that's why I
political.
want to have this conversation, because it's like I really literally see. I can honestly say I see both sides of the argument. There's this person in me that has worked in Hollywood and understands that it is still a business, and then there's the person in me that wants to stand up for social justice issues and have everybody have an opportunity.
Jeff Sessions also worked in politics for a very long time.
Yeah.
Does that mean that all of Jeff Sessions' politics are socially correct? Or no, it doesn't. No. So when we start looking at that, then that's when we kind of get into this thing of, to your point about millennialism, like, we can acknowledge it, and it doesn't mean that we're saying it's right or wrong. We're saying that we can do better.
But don't you think the controversy, like the backlash, is misdirected because it's directed at an actress that's simply taking a role to do her job, right? And but listen,
America loves protecting white women. No. She has
it has nothing to do with color.
It does.
Let me bear with me for a second here. This lies in, like, Hollywood starts where it's agents, managers that are going to rep people. So you're saying you're not getting in the rooms.
You have something to say, so like I don't want to take that.
Oh no, I mean I have a lot.
We're basically not even going to get to the other topics, but that's okay because this is an important conversation to have.
I'm not sure where to start. I mean, well, first of all, she's not like her career, her livelihood does not depend on taking this job. She could have any role she wants. Especially if she's making as much as you were saying,
$100 million
Merle.
net worth. Yes,
Exactly. She's doing
made
totally fine for herself.
billions, though, more money than Meryl Streep when it comes to box office.
But I don't think it's about money. Like, here's the thing.
But
She
it is
does
about
probably
money.
want to be nominated for an Oscar. Like, we can
Absolutely.
actually
Yeah.
say
And
that.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
and
okay.
suddenly- And then
Right.
this life
People want to. That's an accomplishment. That every actor in Hollywood that achieves box office success. What do they want next? Tom Cruise probably lays awake at night.
Yes.
He still hasn't got that Oscar.
and
He can,
woe is him. You know,
It's like-
He's
but
not
it's
getting
like-
it from Mission Impossible.
No, he's
10.
definitely not.
And so, you know what, and what I respect about you, and I wish more of Hollywood had this conversation, you've made it very clear that it's about the money, and it's not
about the money
it's about
for
the
me.
profit, and it's not about the people.
I didn't make
And
the
so,
rules.
I'm
Did
not
I make
saying-
the rules?
I'm not saying that you're saying any, I'm just letting you know what I read back is that it's about the profit and not the people. So what we're saying is that Hollywood thinks just like you, and
No.
that's real. But the
I
thing is
acknowledge
that
what
we're
Hollywood
saying,
thinks. Do not say that to me. I really don't like
why,
that.
what is this happening right now? Oh, this is getting a little
You're
bit
making
too lit,
a
and
lot
I'm
of
not the
points
one.
about
I don't think
who I
she's-
am
She's,
and what
she's,
I
not
am.
ta- she's just saying that Hollywood in
She's in her
general is a
feelings.
business,
Yeah,
and that
I
they're
didn't
talking
create
to the,
that rule.
She's not
no,
saying you did.
she's expressing that she's saying that this is how Hollywood is a business, basically.
Right, that was what I
No,
said.
but you're
so-
putting it on
yeah.
her like
no,
it's- yeah.
no, I'm
No.
not. No,
All right.
no.
You were
Right,
just
that's not
saying
what
that
I
you-
said.
you were
That's not
talking
what I
about the
said.
industry
this
as a
is
whole,
what,
not
and
you
this is what
individually.
people do. And let's just keep this all the way real. We always want to attack the trope, and we want to make this about like, oh, I'm being attacked. You're not being attacked. All I'm doing is stating what you said. And whenever we tell the truth that way and come with facts, we're always demonized and villainized. So like I said, Hollywood has this idea that it is about the profit and it is a business. You're absolutely right. Allow me to agree with you. You're right. What we're just saying is stop pretending that you aren't exploiting these communities for their stories and giving them nothing from it. That's all I'm saying. And I didn't say that was you. That is an industry that was there before you were born.
Yeah, and actually, you earlier said, Joseph, that you know, that Hollywood kind of everyone says Hollywood is everything, and or something along those lines.
That they want it to be everyone to everything, but then it's like sometimes I'm not defend. There's a lot of bullshit in Hollywood.
Hold on.
I'm not defend, but I'm saying that they also can't win sometimes. Like Hollywood literally can't win.
See, this is the thing. Hollywood is not the victim here. Hollywood perpetuate. You know, Hollywood wants to have it both ways, and I know I'm also aware that Hollywood isn't a monolith, right? Hollywood
No,
is
it's
made
like
up of
it's not-
individuals
yeah, exactly.
who are smart and
Yeah.
really attentive to kind of.
Hollywood is the place that gives the Ryan Murphys and Shonda Rhimes the platforms to tell the stories that have ground broke
Yeah.
and done what we're talking about
Exactly.
here. But go ahead.
But I mean, as long as we're kind of talking about generalizations, Hollywood is also a white hetero cis world still, right? And so you have this culture that's despite the fact that a lot of people are well-meaning and being white and heterosexual and cisgender doesn't mean you can't be well-meaning and an ally, right?
Yeah.
But you definitely you don't have a lived experience. That kind of prejudice or that lack of knowledge prejudices you in a certain direction, whether or not you mean to be prejudiced in that direction. So I'm kind of getting off topic. My point in all this is that...
Bring it back in.
Yeah,
Let's
let
really
me
go
see if
back
I can
in.
bring it home. My point in all this is that Hollywood is liberal when convenient. All too often, right? I mean, you see that.
That's so another topic.
But
and
it's
show.
not.
But
It's not
it's
because
not.
we're talking about.
No, because I don't think it's
Because
so
Hollywood
liberal.
can be
Guess what?
everything to
It's
everyone,
not.
but
But
they pick and choose
Hollywood's
what
not
they-
going to be like they vote. Some of them vote with their pocketbooks. Yeah, there's tons of people that are Republican in Hollywood, but they're not gonna. That's not cool to be.
But I'm not even talking about. I mean.
Because you're saying it's liberal when it wants to be. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
every
'cause
4 years
that's-
for the elections, of course.
Sure, but also, I mean, when we're talking about like Black Panther, right? When
Yeah.
they can make money, then
They
oh my
didn't
God,
know they were going to make money when they made it.
they had night. I mean, they spent so much money on it. They didn't know they
That
were going to make
doesn't
as
mean-
much.
I don't think
money.
it had anything to do with the marketing on it. That film, here's the thing. I hate anyone who knows the history of me on Twitter. I hate superhero
Yeah.
movies. You can't get me to sit in a theater for a superhero movie. I went and saw Black Panther 3 times because it was a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like I think that I don't think they were like, oh God,
Do you know why that was a great movie? Let me go ahead and share that with
Yeah.
you as the black person on the panel. The reason why that was a good movie is because there were black writers, producer, people. It was black. It was for us, by us.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about
Well, it
Ryan
was for
Murphy.
everyone.
It was, but let's just be real. Let's just go ahead. It feels good to see yourself represented in a way in which you're not, like, even with the trans story, you pick someone that is running like an underground prostitution ring and, but they're giving you visibility. But what are they promoting? What message are they promoting? And so Ryan Murphy, Stephen Canals is the actual one who wrote it. He's the creator and co-creator, co-executive producer. And Ryan Murphy, though his name is on it, he has been intentional about bringing Janet Mock, bringing in Stephen Canals, bringing in all of these amazing, the cast of all trans women.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we get to see that there is so much of a larger opportunity when we're intentional behind being inclusive. So Hollywood is where Hollywood needs to be right now. I'm so happy that we're in this generation where we can just start exploring it because we can't heal what we don't reveal.
Any final thoughts?
About?
The Scarlett that we didn't cover in the last.
Scarlett, if you want to talk to us, girl, we're down to have a conversation. To be honest with you, the response that we got via your rep was what threw people, just so we're clear about what the real issue is, though we went in the weeds. It is about the fact that we felt dismissed. And if you're telling our story, you should be consulting with the community that you're claiming to represent and not speaking over them.
So I guess now would be a great time to move on to Zac Efron's dreads and cultural appropriation.
Lighter topic.